Overview of Prince 2. Okay. So an overview of Prince 2 means you need to understand the following: Prince 2 principles, Prince 2 themes, Prince 2 processes. Now, I'm going to also put another word out there because I think for people learning project management, this is one of the most important concepts that you need to understand, but I think it's the one area that most people tend to be a little bit weak on. So the word I'm going to be mentioning is context. Okay, I have been around for some time. I've worked for lots of different organizations. If I come and work in your organization, let's say, for instance, I leave my company now today and actually join your company next week. Do you think I need to start to understand your organization before I make decisions? Or do you think I should just say to myself, well, Sydney, you're an expert in this area, so you just take it over there and do it your way? What do you think? Would context matter?
Yes, you need to understand.
I need to understand your organization because the way that the rules of your organization might be different from the rules of my organization. These are some of the areas that you as a project manager, you need to understand these. So for instance, what are the type of policies that this project needs to adhere to? What are the standards that it needs to align with, and so on? So all of those things, you need to start getting to grips with that. Context matters. And that's where what we're trying to get you to understand is a methodology is only as good as the way that you actually tailor it. You can learn the methodology, anyone can learn it. But the inclusion of that methodology in a particular organization to make it unique to your organization will require you to need to do the following. Sorry, that was supposed to say adapt to suit. Yeah, adapt to suit context. So quick overview. Prince 2 Agile describes how to configure and adapt Prince 2. So Prince 2 Agile describes how to configure and adapt Prince 2. Yeah, so there's two different discussions there. This will enable Prince 2 to be used in the most effective way when combining it with Agile behaviors. So I'm going to highlight some words here: Agile behaviors, Agile concepts, Agile frameworks, and Agile techniques. By and large, that's what Agile is. Different behaviors. Yeah, we have concepts, we have frameworks, so Scrum framework, a Kanban framework, and so on. As I said before, Lean Startup will be discussed, but not in any big way. As far as I'm concerned, the two really methodologies we're going to be discussing is Kanban, Scrum, and Prince 2. So Prince 2 and Prince 2 Agile are only suitable for use on projects. So I'll say that again. Prince 2, and by extension, Prince 2 Agile are only suited for project management. One, they are also suited for any type of project. So someone mentioned that, I know who it is, mentioned that they are working on an IT project. Yes, we do have IT projects, and Prince 2 Agile will work quite effectively on a Prince 2 and an IT project, but it would work just as effectively on my project for the new training center, or for your marketing project, or for any other projects. There are Agile methodologies out there like DevOps, SAFe, and a few more, which are IT-specific Agile methodologies. But this is a more generic project management methodology, can be applied to any type of project. And therefore, what we're trying to get you to understand, it is not therefore for business as usual. Know the differences with. One of your exam questions is also going to want to know, do you understand the difference between business as usual and projects? Yeah. So many Agile methods can be used for projects and routine ongoing work. Now, again, depending on what your backgrounds are and what your knowledge is, I also need to, part of my responsibility here is to get you to unlearn some things that you probably thought you knew. Yeah. And then I'm going to put you on the straight and narrow about this is the way you need to know it if you want to pass the exam. Anyway, so a project or business as usual. So again, as we're going through, I'm going to be trying as much as possible to illustrate my discussions using examples as well. So I'm going to say to you, I mentioned earlier on that I come from an IT background. Yeah. And I've worked with a lot of IT people, and I've worked and interacted with lots of organizations. And I'm going to tell you something that was very common, not so much now, but pre-COVID. A very common statement that you would hear from a lot of business people is how strongly they felt about their IT department's performance. And it was quite often always negative. Yeah. And one of the things that you would hear them say is that the IT department don't seem to be delivering according to their needs, etc. And then I got to start looking at this problem as to what are some of the reasons what causes it. And I've come to some of my own conclusions. Yeah. And one of them is that if you, in fact, any of you out there would say you have an IT background? Come on, there's got to be at least one of you out there with an IT background. None of you?
Yeah, I would say, I guess mine is.
Okay, so here's the thing. I'm going to pick on someone in IT now. Sorry, Chloe. But remember, that's where I come from as well. One of the things that most people in IT don't have is they have good service management understanding, but they don't necessarily have been taught project management methods. So if you have not been taught project management methods, and there's a toss-up now, something comes your way, one of the things that we're saying you need to understand is whether or not this task that has just come your way, should it be managed as a project, or should it be managed as business as usual? So if I, as a business person, come to you and says, look, I need this to be done within a certain time scale, and I give you all of these conditions, that's leading you down to a project management mindset. But quite often the organization doesn't necessarily resource it effectively, and so on. And therefore, I'm going to have a lot of different things where people are saying to me they want it done in a certain times, which means I start making decisions as to which is more important. Yeah. One of the things about projects is if you are taking on a project, you must understand from a business point of view how important this project is to be delivered on time and within budget. And therefore, if you're treating that as business as usual, it means I didn't do that. I did this instead. Yeah. So we need you to understand what is business as usual and what's a project. To use Agile effectively, it is important to understand the difference between a project and business as usual. Agile can be used on both projects and also ongoing business as usual. So beside that, if you wanted to make some notes beside that one, that second sentence, Agile can be used on projects as well as ongoing business as usual. Two examples of Agile that could be used like that are Scrum and Kanban. Yeah. Prince2 and Prince2 Agiles, on the other hand, are appropriate solely for projects. So characteristics of a project: temporary. A team is created. They will have some difficult concepts, and there will also be some degree of uncertainty. Business as usual. Routine, day-to-day tasks, ongoing, repetitive tasks. You have the same people doing it over and over, the stable team. And there is quite often, we know what needs to be done. It's just a case of plowing through it. Yeah. So know the characteristics of BAU and projects. Okay. Now, I'm going to also now introduce some other terms now, some concepts, which I need you to understand. They're not evident on the slide, but I need to bring them to your attention from now. So I want you to think about the following now. So I'm going to pretend to be someone in your organization. And so someone in your organization, and I'm coming to you like the following. So this was what used to happen to me. I would quite often be sitting in the coffee bar, relaxing, as I normally would do in the good old days. And someone would come and sit down at my table. Sydney, can I just have a word with you quickly? We've just been awarded some money. And we've been looking at the following for some time now. But now that we've got the money, we think that we could actually do this. Could you look into blah, blah, blah for me? Could you look into it? Okay. And sometimes when I look into it, in fact, some of the time at that very table, this is what I might say. But why would we look at that? We already have that in place. I even remember sending out an email a couple of weeks ago about it. We already have that. I don't remember seeing that email. Can you, but we'll come up to the workshop. I'll show you what we've got, and you tell me whether or not it would actually do what you're talking about. Yeah, that would do it. Exactly. That's perfect. That's what I want. Yeah. That means, in effect, what we've just done there is someone actually had the idea for a project. We've actually thrashed it out, and there's no need for a project. In other cases, we would actually say, I would say, okay, leave that one with me. I'll go and have a look into it. And I come back to them and I says, well, based on what you're talking about, this is how long it would take, and this is how much it would cost. I never hear from them again. Because guess what? It means that they've looked into it and that project is not workable based on the constraints that they have. And in other cases, they would say, I like what you've done so far. Can you go deeper now and give us some times and costs? So I need you to understand certain layers. So the layers I'm going to describe to you is, I'm going to create a column. Yeah, I'm going to put 4 layers. I'm going to put one layer called corporate. Okay. You want to write this out in full. So you want to be making notes now. Blank paper. The hierarchy of Prince2 is corporate at the top. Below corporate, we have the project board. And I'm not going to be writing out project board, but you should write out project board in full. So I'm just going to write PB. I have written PB, but it's not appearing. Project board in full. And below the project board, we have the project manager. And below the project manager, we have the team manager. Team manager / agile development team. So / agile. Yeah. So this is the hierarchy of Prince2. Every discussion that I'm having with you, you need to be aware of that hierarchy. That's the hierarchy of Prince2 / Prince2 agile. If there's a difference, I will say there's a difference between the two. But you must know this hierarchy. So effectively, it is corporate who have actually decided that you, as a project manager, should explore the following project for them. The project board is here. The project board is what is going to give you project direction. The project management is going to be provided by you, the project manager. Yeah. And the work that is being executed and being performed on a day-to-day basis is the team manager / the agile team. Above the project board, we have corporate. So, Daniel, picking on you already. Let's pick on my favorite project in the world. Which project is he going to talk about now? HS2. I'm hoping, now don't tell me whether or not you're a fan of HS2 or not, because this is not where we're going with this. This is something easily, I think, relatable to most people on this course, where they at least have some awareness of it. In my hierarchical depiction here, who do you think would represent, in effect, be corporate with the HS2 project? Come on, people, brave people. Your project managers.
No, the government.
The government, yes. And they would therefore agree that it would be the government who would decide on the scope of HS2, the amount of money you can spend on HS2, and so on. Yeah. And what they then do is delegate it to other people to manage it on their behalf or to provide direction. So what they then do is you have the HS2 people who actually create the direction and so on. And then you've got the various projects. Now, forgive me here because HS2 is really not a project, it's a massive program. Yeah. But the similarity in terms of the concepts are not too dissimilar. Okay. Now, when we have a project, what we will do is to look at the project from a life cycle point of view. And we're going to create certain windows on the project in terms of what needs to be done. So there's a pre-project activity, there's an initiation stage, and some other bits of things. So those terms, you will need to know them. Yeah. Anything that you need to know from an examination point of view, I will be pointing it out to you that you must know this from an examination point of view. Now, let's look at where the discussion was this morning. I said to you, if on completion of the project, i.e., so this is where you are now, on completion of the project, you've handed over to BAU. Your responsibility as regards to that project is over here. So if they drag you over here, you've lost the title in Sydney's world as a project manager, more in terms, they might use the Pharrell phrase. Oh, you remember that project that you managed, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, fine. But over here, you are now Tom as opposed to PM or whatever you want to say. Yeah. Now, some of the other terms that we want you to be aware of is the following. You might need to make certain tweaks to that product, or in BAU, you could also have this concept of I just underlined the word backlog. Yeah. So batches of features, a backlog, or a to-do list that is prioritized. Yeah. Okay. Now, someone mentioned something on their introduction, and I made a comment on it. So a big discussion I'm also going to need to have with you is what's the difference between what has traditionally been referred to as a waterfall method and an agile method. Now, they tend not to use those words a lot in the exam, waterfall in particular. But there are certain phraseologies, as soon as you see them, you should know that they're talking about waterfall. So what I said when someone said something is the following. In fact, let me give you a steer instead of describing what I said. Guys, I've been to the architect, and between us, we sat down and we've come up with a beautiful plan for my future house. Here's the plan that I'm now providing to you, and I want you to build this house for me. When you open up the plan, it has all the dimensions of everything I want you to do. So it's got the room sizes, the type of material, everything. All you need to do is to work through the plan and deliver it. Question: what methodology would be suitable in such a scenario? I've given you a plan, a detailed plan of what I want. Agile or waterfall, or a combination. In fact, no combination. Either it's binary, one or the other.
I'll say waterfall.
That is straightforward a waterfall project. Now, let me describe to you why that is a waterfall project. And this is one of the concepts I need you to understand. If you have been told explicitly what the customer wants you to do for them, which means moves away any autonomy or leeway in terms of another person mentions innovation and so on, all of that is moved from you, then in effect, that's a waterfall project. You're just delivering the solution that was described to you, because that's in effect what you're doing. Yeah. If on the other hand, and this was one of the things I used to find most annoying when I used to work, I would have people who would come to me and say the following: Sydney, I've got this idea that we're developing, and I don't know how to describe it to you, but I really know what it is we want to be able to do, but we need a solution, or they wouldn't use the word solution, but we want something to help us to achieve the following objective. And I would be muttering under my breath, outside of their visibility, do you think I have a crystal ball? How do you think I'm going to work out what it is you want? But that is not perfect for Agile, because one of the most crucial aspects of Agile is the recognition that you're going to need to work with the customer. Here's my ideas as to what it is I could give to you. What do you think? No, that idea wouldn't work. Why wouldn't it work? Well, you focused on that, and I'd rather you think about this. So I'm now getting a better idea as to what you're talking about. So an Agile project is a lot of collaboration to evolve a solution. A waterfall project, we know what the solution is going to be from the get-go, and what we do is go on a journey to deliver it. An Agile project says, well, we don't know what the solution is going to be, but we know what we need to be able to achieve. So here's the two words. Now, output, again, and outcome. If you're a good project manager, your first thing that you want to know is what is it they're trying to do? What is it they're trying to achieve? Yeah. That's the outcome. What would we be able to provide to them that would enable them to achieve that? That's the output. So an output is a deliverable, and an outcome is the use of that deliverable to achieve the stated outcome. Notice how often I've said this. Very important concept. Okay. Some terms. Business as usual. In a business as usual in business as usual, a prioritized list could be batched in a time box. A prioritized list is what is commonly referred to as a backlog. So this, now let's go back to the finger, is a backlog. As the work is completed, the product evolves. Yeah. Although Prince2 Agile is only suitable for projects, its use uses a wide range of behaviors, concepts, frameworks, and techniques. Now, if I start to highlight these things like I am doing, those ticks on there means that these are terms that you need to know for the exam. And then we give you these fancy box here like this one, which is saying, oh, by the way, here's also a definition that the exam tells me that you need to know. A time box. A time box is a finite period of time when work is carried out to achieve a goal or meet an objective. The deadline should not be moved. Okay. That section there, you might want to highlight it. Let me read it again. The deadline should not be moved, as the method of managing a time box is to prioritize the work into it. Okay. So that for the entire sentence, I would highlight it because we need to explain what it means. In an Agile project, once we agree something, what we're going to agree is how much time have I got and how much money have I got to spend. In fact, let me give you a different scenario, totally, to see what I mean. So participation required. So we're going back to these two words, output and outcome. Let me state an outcome. I want my house to be secured. House to be secured is the outcome. You're the project team, you're the experts, and I've stated to you, I want my house to be secured. Outcome. Okay, so here's the thing now. So you're the project team. So here's one of your wonderful, sensible questions. So how much money would you like to spend? I'd only want to spend 10,000. Okay, fine. How much time have we got? 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Okay. 10,000 spent 2 weeks. So I have just given you your limits. You've got 2 weeks to secure my house with a spend of £10,000. Is everyone okay with that so far? Because I'm going to change the variables.
Yeah.
Let's mess around with the variables now. Same scenario. I want my house to be secured. How much time have we got? 3 months. How much money have we got to spend? 100,000. Question. Are we all okay with the fact that the outcome remains the same? Is the solution that you deliver likely to be the same? What do you think?
No.
The solution will be totally different. And each time I play around with those variables, guess what? The output is likely to change in line with those variables. Yeah? This is important for project managers to understand, because when a project manager is too output focused, they lose sight of the targets. If you are told that you've only got these two windows to operate within, time and cost, then your responsibility is to ensure that the solution you deliver is fit for purpose within that window. And if you know that you cannot deliver a solution within the windows designated, then you should walk away from that project. So if I said to you, you've got a week to secure my house, and I show you what I mean by secure my house, you might come back to me and say, Sydney, I'm sorry, but we can't do that. There is no way we can do what you're asking us to do within a week. And I might say, well, sorry, I got someone else who can. Yeah. So there are projects that we should walk away from. It's important to understand this.